Why don't you come out with your red dress on? We can dance the night away. Yeah, I don't know. So, Jersey Boys is a film directed by Clint Eastwood, and there was a time when I would have heard his name behind a film and been really excited about it. He's had a few more misses recently than he has hits. This film is based off the Broadway musical that's had a lot of success. This is the story of the Four Seasons and how they rose to fame and kind of the backstory of a lot of their members. Some of them had ties to the mob based on where they grew up and people that they knew. And that even continued for some of them as they rose in success. This film definitely suffers from an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it is. It thinks it's coming from a musical, and it's trying to be a film, but it's not trying nearly hard enough. A lot of the things that you would normally find normal when you go to see a play in the theater are not used in film in the same way because it means something different on film than it does in a theater. In film, when a character actually breaks the fourth wall and looks directly into the camera and addresses the audience, that's usually a cue for you to identify with that person. They are your way into the story, and you're going to see things from their perspective. In theater, it's way more widely used. Many different characters can actually turn towards the audience, and they call it an aside, and actually address the audience to tell them what they're thinking. Everything in theater has to be a little bit bigger because the audience is much farther away. And so you can't do the kind of nuanced performances that you can in film where the camera is right close up on you. And that's the difference between film acting and theater acting. So, the film opens, and immediately we're introduced to one of the main characters, one of the Four Seasons, and he comes onto the screen and immediately starts talking to the camera, speaking to the audience. And so my initial reaction was, all right, this is our way in. He is the guy that we're going to identify with, and we're going to see things from his perspective. I'm with you, movie, let's go. But then the movie does something confusing. We're introduced to a new character. This guy we haven't seen the entire film. After the scene is over, he turns to the camera and starts speaking to the audience. And I'm like, okay, wait. Who's this guy? And why is he talking to us? I thought this other guy was our way in. And now this guy that we've just barely met, dude, I don't know you. Now he's talking to us as if he knows us, as if we've been with him this entire time. And we haven't. I don't know him. But he eventually becomes one of the Four Seasons. What was crazier, though, was that we got a lot of the way through the movie. It had to be at least halfway through the film. This third character turns to the camera and starts speaking. Now, this third character's been there the whole time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Where did you come from? You've been here the entire time and never said word one to us. Scene after scene after scene, you've been there and just ignored us the entire time. And now you got something to say? But the one guy that this story seems to be about is the one guy we haven't heard from. And at this point, I'm frustrated and my anger turns a little bit towards Frankie Valli because now we've got the entire band talking to us except for him. He's been aloof this entire time. Everybody else and their brother can't shut up, but Frankie Valli, he's got no time for you and me, for schmucks like you and me. Frankie Valli doesn't have time for you. He doesn't care about you. He's too busy. And even in the film, he's really, really busy. He's running around and he's doing all these dates, and he's the main guy. And we've heard not a peep from him the entire movie other than what the movie is showing us in the scenes. From there, it just got more and more confusing because there were at least two scenes where one of the characters would be in a room by themselves and start talking at the beginning of a scene. And you're like, are you talking to me? or what? And then sure enough, they would leave that room, enter a different room, and there'd be another character there that they were actually speaking to. I'm just like, okay, now you're just messing with me. And that's the thing. Those kinds of things can easily be cleared up just by a little better blocking of your scene, and why that isn't done in this film doesn't make any sense. Whereas in theater and on a stage, that wouldn't be confusing at all. You'd see two people on two different sides of the stage in two different rooms, and they could both be speaking, and it wouldn't be confusing. So you've got to be able to recognize that that is gonna be an issue and not do it. The whole film seemed to be a bit disjointed, though. There were many things that seemed like they needed to be set up, and they just weren't. You initially see that Frankie Valli has a child in one scene, and the mom is there, and many, many more years down the road, he comes down from a scene, and there are 3 young girls in the living room with the mother, and you're like, who are these people? I mean, are they friends of the daughter, or who are they? And then, of course, it's revealed that they're all his kids. But why couldn't they have set that up? Just little tiny things like that were just confusing to me. Everything seemed like it was a play. It didn't seem like a film, because the changes that you need to make to an adaptation like this weren't there. This movie had a lot of potential. You had Christopher Walken, and in every scene that he's in, he's good, because he's Christopher Walken. The guy just doesn't really seem to make many bad scenes. But Frankie Valli, he did a pretty good job. You know, at the end of the day, he's definitely seemed like he was a theater actor. I found myself just kind of being blasé about where he was going and what he was doing, and I didn't connect with his story in a meaningful way. His performances weren't very nuanced, but the guy can frickin' sing, absolutely. And the music here is probably where this movie actually hits for a lot of people. And the guy who played Frankie Valli, he did a good job when it came to singing. And there are just not a lot of humans that can pull off that. And maybe that's the problem, is that when you're trying to tell the story of the 4 seasons, you have to try and find a guy like that, and you are gonna be limited. So I'm gonna give Jersey Boys a 3 out of 5. It was okay. I can't recommend rushing out to see it, that's for sure. There were a few things they could have done that would have fixed the problems that they had, and they just decided not to. They really were trying to go for the feel of the musical, but in doing that, they forgot to make a film. But the people that like the music and like the band, are nostalgic, or maybe some people that have even seen the musical, would go out and probably enjoy themselves if they can get past the other things. But for me, seeing it as a first-time person, it was confusing and frustrating. So, Jersey Boys, what did you think? Did you see it? Have you not seen it? Did you ever see the Broadway play, and what'd you think about it? And if you've seen both, please tell me if they are exactly the same, because I would love to know, because it sure seemed like they were. You can always leave a comment, and maybe we can talk about it. So as always, click right here if you like what you see, and subscribe to even more of me. Catch you next time.